Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This will be our subject code 3673 Ecological Building Design and Materials. And today we will be covering our unit number 7, 8, and 9, which will be about the water conservation and quality, the finances, legislation and cost, and about some of the case studies that have been present in our books, and we'll be referring to them and consulting to them. All right. So let's get started, G. As you can see on the screen and in the picture, when the well is dry, we will know the worth of water, said by Benjamin Franklin. That means when you are going to lose a commodity which is necessity to the life, then we'll worth it. So we have to be prepared for those kind of situations. We need to understand what is the worth of water. And water conservation is one of the core areas which have to be worked upon while we are devising our buildings, our houses, our homes. As 70% of the European population lives in cities and their suburbs and so cannot collect all their own supply. Water has to be collected from rivers or pumped from underground aquifers, stored in reservoirs, filtered, treated, and pumped to each house, often in fairly ancient, leaky water mains. That means the main lines. As a resource, water is being used at an unsustainable rate. Underground aquifers are being emptied faster than they are replenished. Means the amount of water extracted from the aquifers is at a higher frequency and amount as compared to the way it has been replenished or added. Due to high standards of hygiene and cleanliness, domestic water has doubled from 75 liters per day per person per day in 1960 to almost 150 liters persons per day now. In our context, the thing with the amount of water in Pakistan, which was available back in the early 1940s and 50s, has almost reduced to less than half of it at a very drastic rate. So it is important to conserve water not only from the financial point of view but also from the waypoint of energy saving. Means the amount of treatment and pumping consume energy for it to be able to be supplied to the community or to the society. So treating water and sewage for an average family creates around 78 kgs of carbon dioxide emissions per year. In our context of Pakistan, this is even higher than this because the amount of energy utilized in extraction of water, the amount of energy utilized in storing, running the pumps, um supplying it to a higher height, and then managing it becomes very difficult. And then we use motors and we use pumps and extraction through the boring that we usually do. So the amount of energy which is utilized and the amount of energy which is used to pump it to the rooftops and then to the supply and then for the sewage treatment and extraction, it is comparatively very high. On average, we use water in the home in the following proportions: 33% almost in the flushing of the toilet, washing machines 21, baths and showers around 17, kitchen sinks, wash basins, dishwashers, and hose pipes. These are different ones. So there's a number of ways to reduce overall water consumption and to use water more efficiently. In our case, kitchens and toilets are the two major areas. Apart from them, the third major area which I usually see is the washing of the cars in the homes and the overspill which usually occurs in our overhead water tanks is one of the areas which needs to be contained, or in other words, curtailed. Water meters, one mechanism. G. Although we hate having to have one fitted, water meters concentrate the mind wonderfully and allow you to check how you are succeeding on the water saving front. Apart from water meters, G, I think educating people and taking them on board, ensuring that they know the quality and the amount of water which is wasted is very important. Educating them, sensitizing them. Coming back to our topic of meters, water consumption does drop considerably once a meter is installed, usually by around 30%. The reason is this, that the person gets sensitized and he knows that the water he is going to waste has to will be recorded, and one or the other way he has to pay for that. The new water companies are voluntarily installing prepaid water meters in some low income households, ostensibly as a way of helping consumers plan their spending. In practice, it is form of self-disconnection, enabling the suppliers to avoid their public health responsibility in one way or the other. But practically, if you see that, basically you are helping the end user to save or conserve the water. So water poverty is now almost as common as fuel poverty, and the dangers to the generic public are far greater as it could lead to outbreaks of these diseases we thought were extinct in the developed world. Obviously, it's hygiene, it's concerns about the public health towards enabling that these areas have been treated and have to be managed. But on the contrary side, in the context of Pakistan, I see the situation is even worse than that. Even if we have to pay for water, but still we see, like in Karachi, we see in some of the lower lying areas, we also see in the extreme locations, water scarcity is turning out to be one of the major concerns throughout the time. Toilets now, new toilet systems are required to be more than no more to be using not more than 6 liters, but most existing ones are 9 liters. Most unit toilets use a wall flush, which is usually more water efficient than the British siphon flush. So, depending upon how efficient could it be, it has to be devised in such a way that less water is utilized, but it does fulfill the purpose it is used for. Water regulations, which came into force in 2001, now allow wall flush mechanisms to be fitted in the UK to mains water installation. However, the regulations also stipulate that all WCs must be approved by the Water Regulation Advisory Scheme. Since such kind of mechanisms are not practiced over here, we have to enable and understand that because we are facing severe water scarcity, so we have to be very much clear and we have to be very much precise about what the things are happening and how these are happening and how they are going to be managed. So when we talk of showers and taps, that is another way where the water can be conserved cheap. Both uses about 110 liters of water, a shower 30 to 40 liters. They are so quick and convenient, we tend to take more showers than baths, which evens out the score somewhat. All right. So we have to be very much precise. A power shower can use as much water as a bath. Further water reductions can be achieved by installing low flow shower heads, which aerate the spray more effectively. So you get just as wet with less water. That means utilizing an efficient way of water through reduction. And power shower means they are going to flow showers at a very faster and comparatively stronger rate. So it is going to waste a lot of water. Or you can turn it off while you work up a ladder or just be under it for the less time. Spray taps work more efficiently for hand washing and thus use less water and energy. Then we have got another aspect which is called dead legs. When designing a new house or renovating an old one, keep the length of hot pipe between the cylinder, that means the geyser, and the most frequent use taps. That means the length of that pipe has to be reduced. What we usually forget is this, that in our context, like 5 marla, 10 marla, or canal houses, the geyser is usually put on the back side of the house. And since in some of the designs, the rooms and the washrooms are also on the back side, so it saves a lot of energy, specifically water conservation based energy in heating it and not only supplying it to the main taps, but also reducing the length of it. So we have to be very much considerably breaking it down. However, when the kitchen are kept in the front, the distance becomes very long. So we have to see those kind of aspects, and those can be reduced through design. And as part as possible, and install insulation around the pipes, that also saves energy. Waiting for the hot water to come through a long pipe run wastes a considerable amount of water, and the heat left in the dead legs gets wasted. In addition, if your hot pipe is not well insulated, it will heat up in the cold water pipe next to it, and you will waste water waiting for cold water to come through. That means it won't be balanced out. So using grey water is contaminated household wastewater from a sink, bath, or shower. Although you may think it would be good to use this water for flushing toilets, it is more practical to use grey water for the gardens. Over here, since we don't have much of gardens available in our context, so in farms and in suburban areas, these can be a good idea to utilize it. Otherwise, use soaps and cleaning products to avoid sodium salts, which are present in conventional soaps and detergents, from damaging the soil. Look for phosphate free or low sodium on the packaging. Since these things are not much practiced over here in the Pakistani context, so utilizing grey water primarily for irrigation purposes can be utilized in a good way. What is grey water recycling? That means utilizing the water from these kind of simple areas and then collecting them through filtering and then for the flourishment. That means will be served in the green areas. How grey water system works? So as you can see in the image over here, like the water is collected from different sinks and from showers or tubs, and this grey water is collected into a surge kind of a tank, an underground one, and then it can be pumped out for the sake of or for the purpose of irrigation. Collecting rainwater, which is also referred to as rainwater harvesting, is one of the most important aspects which we need to be practicing throughout Pakistan's in context because we are scarce of water, and this water can be utilized at later stage, specifically in areas where we have either too much rainfall or even where we don't have rainfall or very less rainfall. Over there, this collected water is going to be of very significant importance. So while collecting well, water conservation measures should be the first step. Rainwater may be collected for various uses such as garden watering. Rainwater collected for toilet flushing needs no treatment. The rainwater stored should be covered to prevent the ingress of sunlight and animals. There are now several manufacturers offering packaged rainwater collection, storage, storage and pumping units. At present, they are quite expensive. Back at the time when the book was written, it was, but at the moment in Pakistan, this is comparatively less expensive, and it has been used after the post-earthquake of 2005 in Azad Kashmir, in KPK, in a lot of other areas. These have been extensively used. This is how it is done. You are going to have multiple pipes and you collect them. You collect them through water storage tanks, and then they are collected, they are processed, and from there they are utilized for different purposes. So when we talk of water conservation and quality perspective, Pakistan Advocate Pakistan, now this was another document which I would be referring you to. So this is Pakistan mean annual rainfall in Pakistan. So we have got some areas where the rainfall is good enough and that can be utilized for rainwater surface harvesting, and that rainwater surface area could be utilized. Per capita surface water availability and storage in Pakistan is around 121 cubic meter per person, which is around per year, which is only higher than that of Ethiopia. So USA houses the largest storage capacity of 6,000 cubic meter per person, followed by Australia and China. When compared with the storage capacity of 900 days in Colorado River, USA, Pakistan stands with the storage capacity at a mere 30 days. That means we are at a very high risk with respect to the availability of water. The agriculture sector consumes around 91.6% of total annual water use in the country, followed by environment at 3.3, domestic at 2.6, and industry at 2.5%. Hence, water saving and efficient utilization of water in the agriculture sector is crucial, given that this sector demands the highest amount of water and should also be utilizing the water conservation strategies at large. So this is the groundwater abstraction in Pakistan back from 1947 to 2007 and 8, and you can see, and from number of days per season, almost around like one or two, to it has risen to almost 50, which means it is extracted at a very higher rate, drastically, and obviously will be scarce of the water. When building a new house or remodeling an existing one, you will have to find your way around the world. So building finance and law. So we are talking about now the finance legislation and assessment. In other words, in our context, the building bylaws or the rules which we have to follow, the processing that we have to go through, the abiding that we are going to be making use of are followed. Undergoing an environmental assessment or depending upon the nature of the scale of project might be an EIA or internal or initial environmental assessment might be there. So cost is different. The one which is written over here is for the UK. The one we practice over here is not standardized. Different development authorities like CDA, LDA, KDA have different processing fees. They are closely related to each other but are not exactly the same. Planning permission, that is one of the most important thing, is how these things are going to be planned down. They are going to get permission to execute the projects. So we usually develop the submission drawings. We take up structural and architectural drawings. We prepare them. We get them signed from the authorities as well as from the concerned architects and designers as well as the structural engineers. Then we get them approved. Once they have been approved, then we can initiate the work. You need to have contractual values for these things, and depending upon the exact concerning body and the governing body which is over there in our local context have to be addressed in different ways, and they have to be processed. Their role is very important, significant towards enabling that the environmental aspects are not sacrificed, they are not eliminated, but unfortunately, at most of the time, we do see that these precautions or these preliminaries are not much accepted. Building regulations are the set of requirements which are usually practiced in our case. Uh, there are different organizations, different regulations, and depending upon the context in which you are designing or developing a project, you have to ensure that these regulations are followed so that you may get the approval. But the something which usually is unacceptable is that they are not revised or updated. They are very old. In context of CDA, in context of Islamabad, I can see that they have been developing these ones, and now they have updated in the 2020. But most of the designers or even the application-based people who are engaged with these processes are not aware of them, and they have to be aware. They must be trained. They must be able to acknowledge and relate that. This was an old schedule. As you can see, these kind of different schedules are developed for the ease of the understanding that if you are developing like a 5 marla or 10 marla or a canal house or a two canal house, or you are somewhere in between like 7 and 8 or 6 or 3 or 2.5, or like 4 marlas house, which rules and regulations, which bylaws, which offsets of the buildings have to be followed on which sides and how they are going to be managed. Then there have to be some standardization. BREEAM is one of those, like the building research establishment environmental assessment method. We also have LEED, the leadership in energy and environmental design, LEED. So these are different standards which are used. The purpose is to ensure that with the BREEAM rating or eco homes, or with the help of LEED rating, the overall design is good enough to substantiate good environmental outcomes from the project, and they are correlating with the context as well. Some of the major areas which are covered are energy use, water waste, material specified, transportation issues, pollution associated with all the above, ecological and land use planning, health and well-being of the people engaged with it. This is the lead one over here. They're like 110 points, out of which sustainable site has got like 26, water efficiency 14, energy and atmosphere is 35, material and processes 10, and indoor environmental quality is like 15, along with innovative design and regional credit with 6 and 4 respectively. For your case studies, I would refer you to the page number 297-327, where different case studies with reference to different environmental aspects have been explained. So you may refer that towards these pages within your book, and we'll be discussing or exploring these case studies during our LMS sessions. I look forward to you for that. Kindly go through the slides, go through the video, and we'll discuss it in detail during our LMS session. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Allah Hafiz ji. See you during the session.